What if I told you that your memories aren't real? Not completely, at least. Every moment you remember, your childhood, your favorite song, that one unforgettable day, isn't stored like a video recording. It's not sitting somewhere in your brain, waiting to be replayed exactly as it happened. Instead, your brain rebuilds it every single time you remember it. And sometimes, it gets it wrong. So the real question is, how do we actually make memories? And can we trust them? Let's find out. 1. What is a memory? At its core, a memory is simply information your brain has encoded, stored, and later retrieved. Sounds simple, right? But here's the twist. Your brain doesn't store everything. In fact, it ignores most of what happens to you every day. Think about yesterday. Can you remember every single thing you did, every step you took, every word you heard? Of course not. That's because your brain is constantly filtering information, deciding what's worth remembering, and what's not. And this decision depends on three main things. Attention emotion, meaning if something grabs your attention, triggers emotion, or feels important, your brain marks it as save this. Everything else, deleted. 2. The 3 stages of memory. Memory creation happens in 3 major stages. 1. Encoding. This is where it all begins. Encoding is when your brain first takes in information. But here's the catch. Encoding is selective. If you're distracted, stressed, or bored, your brain barely encodes anything at all. That's why you can read a whole page of a book and remember nothing. But if something shocks you, excites you, or deeply interests you, your brain switches into high alert mode. It starts encoding everything: sights, sounds, emotions. That's why emotional moments are so vivid. 2. Storage. Once encoded, the memory needs to be stored. This happens across different parts of the brain. Short-term memories stay temporarily. Long-term memories are stored more permanently. But storage isn't like saving a file on a computer. Your brain spreads a memory across multiple regions, like a puzzle. Visual parts go to one area, sounds go to another, emotions go somewhere else, and they're all connected. 3. Retrieval. This is when you remember something. But here's where things get interesting. You're not replaying a memory, you're reconstructing it. Your brain pulls pieces from different areas and rebuilds the moment, and during this process, it can change things. 3. Why memories aren't perfect. Here's something that might surprise you. Your memories are not completely accurate. In fact, they can be unreliable more often than we realize. Many people assume that memories work like recordings, capturing events exactly as they happened. But that's not how the brain functions. Instead of storing perfect copies, the brain rebuilds memories each time you recall them. And during this process, small changes can happen without you even noticing. Every time you think about a past event, your brain may adjust certain details. You might unintentionally add new elements, forget specific parts, or blend that memory with other similar experiences. This process is known as memory distortion. Over time, these small changes can build up. The original version of the memory slowly fades, and what remains is a version that has been reshaped again and again by your mind. It still feels real and convincing, but it may not reflect what actually happened. This is also why 2 people can experience the same moment, but remember it very differently later on. Each person's brain focuses on different details, emotions, and interpretations, leading to unique versions of the same event. In the end, memories are not fixed records of the past. They are flexible, evolving reconstructions shaped by time, perception, and experience. 4. False memories. Here's something even more surprising. Your brain can create memories of events that never actually happened. These are known as false memories, and they can feel just as real as true ones. Instead of acting like a perfect recorder, the brain often fills in gaps when details are missing. If a story sounds believable or is repeated enough times, your mind may accept it as a real memory. For example, some people strongly believe they got lost in a shopping mall as a child, even though it never occurred. This happens because memory is not just about storing information, it's also about reconstructing it. And during that process, the brain can unintentionally create things that feel real, but aren't. 5. Emotion and memory. Emotion plays a huge role in memory. Strong emotions make memories stronger. That's why you remember your happiest moments, your most embarrassing moments, your most painful experiences when emotions are involved. The brain releases chemicals that boost memory encoding. It's like your brain is saying, "This is important, don't forget this." But there's a downside. Emotional memories can also be distorted more easily. Fear, stress, and trauma can reshape how we remember things. 6. The role of sleep. Want to improve your memory? The answer is simple: sleep. While you're asleep, your brain isn't shutting down, it's actually hard at work. Research shows that people who sleep after learning something tend to remember it much better than those who stay awake. 7. Why repetition works. Have you ever wondered why repeating something makes it easier to remember? The answer lies in how your brain builds and strengthens connections. Every time you recall information or go over it again, your brain reinforces the neural pathways linked to that memory. These pathways act like connections between brain cells. A simple way to understand this is to imagine a path in a forest. The first time you walk through it, the path is unclear and difficult to follow. But the more you walk the same route, the more visible and defined it becomes. Memory works in a very similar way. If you only study something once, the connection remains weak and can easily fade. 8. Technology and memory. Here's a modern twist on how memory works. Technology is changing the way we remember things. In the past, people relied heavily on their brains to store important information. Phone numbers, directions, appointments. These were things you had to actively memorize. Today, however, much of that responsibility has shifted to our devices. We no longer need to remember phone numbers because they're saved in our contacts. We don't memorize routes because GPS guides us step by step. Even reminders, notes, and daily tasks are handled by apps, where we store information outside of our brains and rely on technology to retrieve it when needed. The brain works like a muscle. The less you use it, the less efficient it becomes. By constantly depending on devices, we may be training our brains to remember less on their own. In the end, technology is a powerful tool, but it's important to find a balance. Using it wisely can support our memory, but relying on it completely might slowly reduce our brain's natural capabilities. 9. Can we improve memory? Yes, absolutely. And the good news is, improving your memory is often simpler than most people think. It doesn't require special talent, it just requires using the right techniques consistently. One of the most powerful methods is deep focus. When you pay full attention and eliminate distractions, your brain encodes information more effectively. Multitasking, on the other hand, weakens memory because your brain never fully processes what you're trying to learn. Another key factor is emotion. Information that carries meaning or emotional value is far easier to remember. When something feels important, your brain treats it as a priority and stores it more deeply. Repetition and review are also essential. Going over information multiple times strengthens the connections in your brain, making it easier to recall later. Instead of cramming once, spacing out your learning helps create long-term memory. Don't underestimate the power of sleep either. Rest allows your brain to organize and store what you've learned, turning short-term memories into lasting ones. Finally, visualization can make a huge difference. The brain naturally responds to images and stories. When you turn information into something vivid, like a mental picture or a short story, it becomes much easier to remember. In the end, memory improvement isn't complicated. With focus, emotion, repetition, rest, and visualization, you can train your brain to remember more effectively. 10. The bigger truth. At the end of the day, memories are not perfect recordings. They are living, changing stories. Every time you remember something, you're rewriting it. And that's not a flaw. That's how the brain works. It adapts, reshapes, and evolves your experiences. So the next time you think back to a memory, ask yourself, is this exactly how it happened? Or is this the version my brain created? Because your memories don't just define your past, they shape who you are today. And maybe they're not meant to be perfect. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the more you learn about your mind, the more powerful it becomes.